Hi, it's Rachel here. I'm in extremely low tech today. I hope that's okay with that angle. So I didn't do car unwitnessing today, but I did it yesterday with my daughter at the assembly. I think there's probably about 800 people that go to the assembly here, but that may have changed since I left. Anyway, so it was a beautiful sunny day, unlike last time I went to the convention and it was raining and windy and really horrible. But yesterday was a beautiful warm day, slightly breezy, just enough to stop you from overheating. And the brothers and sisters were out picnicking under the trees on the grass. I'll just show you some pictures of what the car looked like, just the usual kind of thing. Hang on. Told you this was going to be low tech. So this is the side of the car facing the footpath. I thought this time I would just put the support group on there and my YouTube channel in case there's any nosy people that I know that might be interested in seeing what this horrible apostate's got to say. And I was parked right outside the police station actually, and there were a couple of policemen walking about throughout the afternoon, and I'm hoping that they took the time to have a look at the signs on my car. I'm sure they probably would have. Anyway, so that's one side. I'll just scroll over. So that's the back. And we actually had, we turned up at about 11 in the morning, and there was a car immediately behind ours with the, what do you call it, the thing to block out the sun in the front windscreen. My brain's not working. And I could see behind it someone in a suit having a snooze, and a woman with a hat on, like a sun hat, snoozing, and I suspected immediately that they were witnesses. Perhaps they were bored of the program already at 11 o'clock, I don't know, or maybe feeling unwell. So I made sure I put something good on the back windscreen there for them to read, and you probably can't see that, but it's talking about 1,006 alleged perpetrators of child sexual abuse being found in the congregations in Australia, and that none of them were reported by elders to the police. So I hope they read that. Okay, and this is the other side of the car. This was on the roadside, so nobody would have read this, however, but it was about the characteristics of cults. And the front of the car, I had stuff about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and some quotes and things. The balloons, I see, I already have one balloon popped there. I had little messages written on the balloons. People walking past on the footpath would have been able to read them. Anyway, I'll just go back. Oops, hang on. Now, I did a bit of video. Unfortunately, I stuffed up with my videoing quite a bit, and there was one point where I thought I was recording for about an hour, and I had accidentally turned it off. So it would have been a bit boring anyway, I think. But I'll show you this.
Hello, it's Rachel here again. This is my beautiful daughter Hannah. She's my sidekick today. This building is where the assembly is being held, and it's just about lunchtime. And we have our car parked just across the corner there. It's a bit hard to find car parks that are within view of the assembly venue, but that's okay, and it's not too close that people can't have a little squiz at it as they walk past, because there's shops down there and bakeries and food stuff. So that's the police station right there, so they can keep an eye on my car for me and make sure no witnesses come and vandalise it. there's actually witnesses parked right behind our car, so I put something on the back windscreen for them to read. That would be very interesting. And so people are starting to come out for lunch now. We have our sign. It just flew over in the breeze. Could you hold it, hun? Could you hold the sign for me, please, so I can show? Thank you. Got this sign here. What does Shani feel like? So I think we'll just go up closer to the door and see what people do. So can I turn this around? Well, let's switch it around to the other view. How do I do that? Okay, so that was a brief video just showing what our setup was, and my aim wasn't to try and engage witnesses or harass them and talk to them or yell at them or anything like that. I just wanted to get my sign out in front of them and in front of the public, of course. So just after that video was shot, people did start trickling out of the building, although I found not so many came out that end of the building as they usually do. So I don't know if that was just coincidence, but we stood near the door at that end of the building for a little while, because people did come out and cross the street to go down to the shops, I suppose, to get food. After that, when we realised that there wasn't that much foot traffic, we moved along the footpath a bit to where a lot of witnesses were picnicking under the trees and at picnic tables. And it was also next to a pedestrian crossing, so we could catch people crossing the pedestrian crossing, and also when cars had to stop at the pedestrian crossing to let someone cross, they could get a little glimpse of our sign and our balloons and probably wonder what it was all about, but because the writing was kind of a bit small for that kind of thing. I mean, the sign is really designed for close-up. But anyway, so after we stood there for about 10 minutes, we decided to keep walking around the footpath, around the perimeter of the venue, because it has the big stadium, a swimming pool, cafe, and a grassed area with a skate park. And the witnesses had hired out the grassed area as well to park on. And so we walked around the perimeter of that, and I was able to place some of my flyers I printed with members of the public walking along and in the bus stop there, and just have a chat about what it was all about. And then we managed to station ourselves outside a building that's adjacent to the stadium that has the library in it and a cafe and art gallery. So we stood at one of the entrances to that, because a lot of families come in there to go to the library and also to go to the cafe. Also people walk past us on their way to the swimming pool and back. So I was able to place quite a few flyers and have a few good discussions with people passing along. And most of them were, pretty good and quite appreciative of me letting them know about the harmful shunning policy. I had quite a long chat with one guy, which was good. And meanwhile, while I was talking to these people, witnesses were filing past. I mean, you could tell who the witnesses were because they were dressed up. The ones in jeans and jandals and that were the ones I approached with my flyers. So I managed to place, I was probably only about 20, but that's better than nothing, isn't it? So after we did that, the parking time was about up for our car, and being right outside the police station, I didn't want to overstay and get a ticket. So we made our way back to the car, and we went through the grassed area next to the stadium, which last time I was there with my sister, and we were doing the convention protest, just a silent thing in our t-shirts with some signs. We were told that we were not allowed to be on the site at all. We couldn't be outside even. We had to go right out to the perimeter of the
the property right out to the footpath in the road, but I thought I'd take my chances and we'd walk through the grounds, which we did, and nobody approached us, and there were lots of witnesses milling around there, so they would have seen our t-shirts, and I was towing my big sign on its wheels, so they would have got a look at that. Anyway, we got back to the car and moved our car to another position, just sort of opposite where we had it before, and decided to go back to the venue and walk through the corridor to get to the cafe where we could have something for lunch. And it was getting towards the end of the lunch break at this point, and when we were there last for the convention, my sister and I were barred from walking through the corridor. The staff physically prevented us from entering there. No doubt they'd been pressured by the witnesses, and he looked pretty stressed out, the manager of the venue, during the convention. So anyway, we walked through in our pink t-shirts, and nobody did anything. Got to the cafe and ordered our food, and that all went all right. I did have to take a phone call at one point where I went outside, and my daughter, who remained in the cafe, said that there was somebody in a suit sort of eyeing her up and just keeping an eye on her. They're probably wondering if we were going to do something, but he eventually left apparently. And so I came back in and we finished our lunch, and we decided to walk back through the corridor again. The program had started again, but there was still a lot of witnesses milling about, as there usually are, and I managed to film video behind me as we walked through, so that I could see if anybody looked later on when I looked at the video. But nobody seemed to take much notice, and it's really interesting that we weren't tailed by attendants or been asked to leave or anything like that. I do have a bit of a video of that. It's not very exciting, but very unexciting actually. I'll just show you that. This is looking forward at this point. So that's the corridor, and the main auditorium was off to the left, and then they have another one they eat. Oh, I've turned around the other way now. So yeah, there were some people hanging around out here, but really they didn't take much notice of us at all. That girl looked, but a few mums with babies. It's so hard, especially in the warm weather. They were quite smiley actually, especially the one breastfeeding her baby. She was quite smiley. We got a few smiles as we walked around. So we're out the door at the other side now, and there's an attendant sitting here. He didn't really take much notice. He sort of glanced as we went past. And that was about it. Let's turn that off. So it was pretty uneventful really. I mean, maybe they didn't want to make a scene. So after we did that, we walked past the open doors, because the stadium had about 3 large double leaf doors that opened out to the grassed area on the eastern side of the building, and they had them all wide open, I guess to get some airflow because it was pretty warm. And there's a footpath that goes through the park area that runs alongside the building. So Hannah and I decided to walk past there, past the open doors, so that, you know, we would be seen. And we stopped at one of the doors and stood there for about 10 minutes actually, and just watched the program. They had the big screen up the front, so we could see the demonstration that was going on the stage and that. And no attendants came and chased us off or anything. It was kind of weird. I really thought that they would come and say, can you please move, you're distracting, or, you know, because we had our t-shirts on, and if they'd seen us at lunchtime they would have known who we were. So in fact, one brother who was outside and was going back in, he actually said, oh, why don't you come in? So I don't know if he didn't see our t-shirts or what, if he thought we wanted to return to Jehovah. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was such a different experience to back for the convention, where my sister was literally thrown out, and there was quite a scene. After that convention experience, I did write to the council and ask them really what were my rights, you know, where could I actually go, and I told them, you know, how rude the staff members were to my sister, who's never been a Jehovah's Witness. She was just there to give me some moral support, and she wanted to ask an elder some questions, and they wouldn't let her in. So yeah, that they were quite heavy-handed in her treatment and of her, the treatment of her and myself. So I told in my council letter what happened, and so whether they had a word with them, I don't know, but it was just a completely different experience. And I wasn't making a scene, I wasn't attempting to talk to people. I mean, there's no pointers there really. And I wasn't shouting or anything. We were just quietly doing our thing. So, I don't know, maybe they saw reason. I'm not sure. So, after that, we had a coffee with some friends, which was very nice. And after that, it was about 4 o'clock and everyone was filing back out, and we couldn't really hang around too long after the program because my daughter had to get to work. She does some waitressing, so we had to, you know, take our signs off the car and that before we travelled home again. But all in all, I feel it was a successful day, and, you know, I got to speak to a few members of the public, and hopefully they remember what we talked about and what they read in the flyer, and they can tell their friends about it if it comes up in conversation. I mean, you've got to start somewhere, eh? You know, you have to start small, and hopefully it... Oh, what's that Bible verse about the leaven fermenting the whole lump? So you start off with a little tiny bit of leaven and then let it grow. So, yeah, it was a good day, and I guess I'll be back to my normal car unwitnessing at a local Kingdom Hall, perhaps next week, or, yeah, we'll see how we go. Okay, I will leave it for there. Bye.